Hi everyone, I'm Rincey and this is Rincey Reads. It is the end of July, and so I thought I would do a sort of Herkad update slash a way to talk a little bit about how I'm doing Herkad. So in case you haven't heard of this before, I talked about this in my mid-year check-in video, which I will link up in the cards and whatnot. Basically, Herkad stands for the hardest reading challenge you'll ever do. I'm not going to go through the whole thing because it's a lot, but basically there's like 25 different prompts and each prompt is essentially like a reading challenge all in and of itself. At the end of the day, if you're going to do like the straightforward version of this or like the standard version of this, you have to read a minimum of 75 books. I think there's like about 150 total prompts that you need to fulfill, and you can like double up on prompts per book, but you can't do more than two. So hence you need to read like a minimum of 75, and that's only if you're lucky and every book fits two prompts. So I figured I would just do a check-in to see sort of like how I'm planning on going about this, and then also like the way I'm tracking things, and you'll also kind of see sort of what I've done so far for Herkad. So I have the all-in-one spreadsheet. This reading challenge was created by QWERTY, and she creates really fantastic spreadsheets so you can like track all your reading and do all this stuff. She has two different versions this year, and one of them is the all-in-one where all of the prompts are just together in like one or two tabs, which is what I personally prefer. A lot of people do the sort of every prompt has its own tab thing, but that's too overwhelming for me. So here on the first tab of the spreadsheet, there's like the rules of like how Herkad works, and the different versions. I mentioned in my mid-year wrap up that like I don't read that many books, so I don't think it's possible for me to actually like fully complete Herkad. And there's the Ain't Nobody Got Time for That version where you basically have to fulfill like one book for every prompt, and I was like, I don't really get how you're supposed to do it for some of the other prompts because they're like chain prompts. And someone was like, you just have to do the chain once, so you have to read maybe like two books for those prompts. So I'm gonna start with the Ain't Nobody Got Time for That version, I think, but I have a strong feeling I'll be able to easily do one book per square, and then I'll move on to trying to complete as much as possible. So here, the next tab is the bingo board. Ignore the fact that this says round 2. It should be round 3. Bum. So this is just sort of like an overview of what all of the challenges are. Some people try to go for like bingos and things like that. I'm not going to, but I will probably like color these in at some point, but I don't care right now. Then next is the prompts and all of the explanations. This is such a good tab, and I'm so grateful for it because like I am constantly like, what are the rules for this one again? So yeah, she has every single prompt listed here. The coloring is my thing, which I will talk about in a second. But yes, every single prompt is listed here, and I'm so grateful for it. She has like definitions and examples and all of these different things, as you can see. So helpful. So I've been using this tab quite a bit with my planning, obviously, and sort of seeing what books will fit into things. So basically what I'm doing with the color coding here is like the purple means those are prompts that I think will be more difficult for me to fulfill, or I feel like require more thinking on my end personally. So like the choose your party prompt, like I feel like after I read a book, I need to be like, okay, what were the careers that were potentially talked about in this book? Could it fit a choose your party? Same thing with like the fake Pokemon thing. Like I really need to think about what book or what sort of themes or ideas are in a book, and see if it fits a Pokemon. So like the purple is sort of like my hardest to fulfill or require more thinking challenges in my opinion. And then all the ones that I've colored in yellow are ones where there are specific like images that are required on a cover. So example, the food pyramid one, like we're looking for a variety of foods. We're looking for different cover styles. So those are things where it's like after I've read a book, I need to look at the cover and be like, is there anything on this book or on this book cover that would like fit into one of these? The animals one and the food one I feel like are the easiest in my opinion. It's the biomes and the Mother Nature one that I feel like I'm going to have a really hard time with. So those are the ones that I'm like kind of keeping top of mind as of right now. I'm trying to fill those in where I can as early as possible. And then There are 2 copies of the log in my version of this spreadsheet. So the copy of this is where I've basically been doing all of my sort of like brainstorming and planning. So I'm not going to go through all of these books, but basically for all of these different prompts, if I can, like, especially like the ones that I think are going to be harder, I've been coming across books and something about it like reminds me of one of the prompts, or like if I'm, hearing about a book or watching someone on BookTube talk about a book and I see something on the cover like an animal, or like specific biome type things or specific weather things, I've been like sort of writing those down as like potential options. As I mentioned in like the mid-year check-in video, like one of the things with Herkad is like I don't want to force myself to read books that I'm not interested in, honestly, just to fulfill a prompt. That's not something that I find fun or enjoyable. Like I want this to be a way to pick up books that I might not have picked up otherwise, like books that I'm like interested in. Like, we all have like giant to be read lists somewhere, like whether there are physical books or just like lists that we've been keeping on like Goodreads or Storygraph, or for me the library website is where I keep track of a lot of books, and like the list just keeps growing, and it's like, when am I ever gonna pick up the ones that I added like last year or anything, or even earlier than that, you know what I mean? So like I view this as like a fun game to pick up books that I'm interested in, that I might have either forgotten about or wouldn't have picked up or prioritized in any sort of way. So in terms of like how I'm actually doing Herkad now that I have like a month under my belt. So under the planning tab that was created, I adjusted this partially, like I deleted some columns and things like that. But this is basically how I'm using this tab, and I'll zoom in a little bit so it's a little bit easier to see. I always have it smaller just so I can see the prompts and stuff a little bit easier. Basically what I'm doing is every time I finish a book, I'm coming in here and I'm putting in the cover into the title column. And this is mostly because eventually I'm gonna want to pick books for cover style. And so this is a way for me to very quickly see the various covers. And so I can very easily find like the 5 different cover styles that I want to use for that prompt. The next thing I'm filling in is the overall prompt section. And so basically what I'm doing is I'm trying to fill in every potential prompt that this book could fulfill. Because again, I don't want to force myself to read books to fit a prompt. And obviously like one book can fit lots of different prompts. I'm just like doing my best right now to kind of slot things in where I feel like it would be like sort of hardest to fulfill. And then I can kind of go and move things around. If I'm like, oh, I want to read this book, but it fits this prompt, but I already fulfilled that prompt with another book, I can move things around and whatnot. So yeah, this is basically my way of sort of keeping track of all of them. So for example, the book Encore, I used it for Choose Your Party, and I used it for Bard because basically everyone in that book is a musician. I also fulfilled it for Second Chances and Hidden, what is this one? Second Chances and like, it's Hidden Gems. That's what it is. Because I found this at the independent bookstore that I went to, that had never heard of it before otherwise. I also found that this book fits the Choose Your Curriculum prompt, because music classes, obviously. And also like one of the characters is actually like a music teacher and stuff like that. And then for every book, I'm trying to put in the titular counting tag. And I'm basically just writing down the number of words in the title. So this one is 2 words because it's the Encore. And then I'm also kind of writing down anything else that might be relevant. So I wrote kind of at the very top, I left this one blank so I can write down like questions so I can remember things to write down. Again, main characters' jobs for the Choose Your Party prompt. What state or country the book might be set in because of the road trip prompt and the regionals prompt, because we're trying to read books from outside of California and New York, and trying to read books that are also from different regions of the world, however you want to define that. And then the other thing I write down sometimes is character names, especially if they have really common names. And this one is for the character to author prompt, and that one is where you need to create a chain where a character's name leads you to read a book where the author has the same first name as that character. So for example, in this case, Encore, the character names were Anna, Charlotte, and Will. And so if I found a book by an author whose first name was Charlotte. So if I read Wild Dark Shore, for example, that author's first name is Charlotte. So that I could create a chain there if I wanted to. So yeah, this is kind of like how I'm doing my planning and prompts and things like that. So every time I finish a book, I come and fill this out. And so you can see sort of like the 5 books I finished so far in the various prompts. Some of them fit more prompts than others. I'm trying my best to like be as thorough as possible now. So that way later on when I'm trying to fill things out, if I have gaps or anything like that, I can try, just do that. And then the final thing that I'm filling out is the main log. And this is with what I am like officially counting or tracking in regards to the prompts. So like once I like have everything figured out, usually like by the time I finish a book, I have a pretty strong sense of like which prompts I want to use this for. Usually it's the top 2 of the planning tab. So then I come in here and I will like officially log the books for those prompts and like check them off. So far I have read 5 books in the month of July, which for me is very good. But again, I need to be reading more than that to officially complete Herkad. Oh, you can watch me do this right now. I didn't put in the prompts that I fulfilled with Sisters of a Half Heart, which was a really fantastic book. I'll have a review of that coming up soon. I need more people to read that book. Anyways, I've completed 1 Choose Your Party prompt, which I did Encore. I did 2 for familial terms. So that is the 7 Daughters of Dupree and then Mother Tongue. And then Food Pyramid, I did 1. Automatic Noodle. Encore went for Second Chances and Hidden Gems. And then numerical titles, I did the 7 Daughters of Dupree. Pocket Monster Acquisition, I did Automatic Noodle. All of the characters in there are basically robots. And so I did Steel type is a type in Pokemon. And then all those secret prompts, I did Mother Tongue for a title is exactly the same as another, which there are lots of books called Mother Tongue out there. So yeah, that's kind of what I did. Let's see, what do I want to do for, oh yes, Sisters of a Half Heart, I'm going to try to do characters to authors. So that's part of the reason why I think I didn't fill this out yet, is because I want to make sure I read the second book in a chain, which I have a book. The main character of Sisters of a Half Heart is named Mira, and I have a book in mind to read where the author's first name is Mira. Titular counting also counts for this. I was thinking about using this for the It's Your Birthday prompt, mostly because I don't think I'm going to be able to find a book with the word topaz or citrine on it, or with those gems on the cover. The It's Your Birthday prompt is honestly one of the ones that I'm like the most scared of, because I feel like all of the November birthday things are really difficult. So yes, I think I'm going to use this because like this cover is kind of like the same color as like topaz and citrine, I believe. So I was thinking about doing this for that one. And then also Second Chances and Hidden Gems. This was a book I randomly stumbled across at the library, which I'm going to leave more of those open for in the future when I can't find other things. So yes, I think I'm going to put this one for the topaz color. And check that off. And then characters become authors. And I'm not going to officially check it until I read the second book. So far, 9.5 prompts complete, I would say. So, making some progress. Happy that everything that I've read so far easily fits into at least 2 prompts. And I've got a couple of the harder ones checked off so far too. I'm really going to try to like prioritize those harder ones. So that way like I feel like the easy ones will just like happen naturally. Like I'm really not concerned about it. The other thing I'm going to have to think about eventually is like the title Shiratori one. But again, I feel like I'll just like make that happen with the books I want to read later on. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I forgot. The only other thing that I didn't mention is my Herkad like 1.0, 2.0 mashup. Basically what I ended up doing is, or like my plan for that one is to mash up the new releases and the BIPOC challenges. I think new releases was 1.0. I think there was a 2.0 challenge version of that too. And then in 2.0, there was a BIPOC challenge. And so basically, I'm giving this sort of like as my freebie square where I can like read the new books that are coming out. And most of the time, the new books that I'm the most interested in are by BIPOC authors already. So this is just like a freebie square for me to be able to read books that I'm excited for that might not necessarily fit into other squares. So yes, that is everything I have to talk about in this video for Herkad. Let me know down in the comments below if you're doing Herkad, how July went for you. If you have any recommendations for books for any of those purple prompts that I put on the screen. So those are choose your curriculum. I think I might be able to figure out. I might also use that as a way to do nonfiction books to get myself to read more nonfiction because I feel like I'm going to lean very heavily fiction in this area. But yeah, like Pocket Monsters, Not So Secret Prompts. If you have anything along those lines, let me know. Oh, that reminds me. 2 other things that I did. I do know about like the communal Herkad spreadsheet. So there's like a communal spreadsheet where like mods and stuff have been throwing in suggestions for things. So I've definitely been like scouring those for like some of the prompts that I think are going to be a little bit harder. And then the other thing that I did was I did an export of like my Libby wish list. I have tendency to like wish list so many books on Libby. There's like almost 600 books on that list. And so I did an export of that in order to sort of like Control F to find certain words and things along those lines. And then the other thing that I did with my Libby spreadsheet is I put in a formula to count the number of words. So that way I can do the titular counting task pretty easily. The one thing is that I only had one book on there that had 10 words in it. It was I Want to Die, But I Want to Eat Tteokbokki, which was a book in translation from Korea. And I started it because I was like, oh, let me just knock this one out because I feel like 10 words is going to be very hard to find. I did not enjoy my experience with reading that book. So I DNF'd it. DNFs don't count. So yes, I will find another one, but that's what I mean by I don't want to force myself to read books just to fit a prompt. Like that was a pure example of like, there was a point in that book where I was like, I just don't want to read this anymore. And I almost forced myself to keep going. But then I was like, no, I don't want to do that for Herkad. So first example of that. So yes, if you have any 10-word books that you think I would enjoy, let me know down in the comments below. So yeah, that's all I have for now, and thanks for watching.